Hey everybody, it's me, Dan Sexton, Mr. Excitement with Renee, Mears Realtors. I am excited today because guess what? I have Mike Kemper with Elite Inspection Group here with me today. This is another version of my continuing real estate education series that I have on YouTube. I'll be posting it on Facebook as well. But everybody give a big, loud, sounding applause for Mike Kemper with Elite Inspection Group. Mike, how are you today?
Doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me and inviting me to meet with you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Mike, I've known you for a long time. We've actually worked together back in the olden days. So, Mike, why don't you give a little bit of background about yourself, your group, your company? Mike is one of the owners of Elite Inspection Group and kind of what you guys have to offer.
Absolutely. So, yeah, like Dan was saying, we met Dan probably about 10, 12 years ago, somewhere. It's been that long, I think, already. And we were selling real estate together on the same real estate team and had some great experiences with that. And I got a little burnout on real estate, so I've always enjoyed, looking and working at the inspection reports and working with my inspectors when we had buyers come out. So kind of transitioned over to starting an inspection company. So we started that back in 2013 and just really have enjoyed it, loved the whole growth process, and brought on a business partner that was also in the real estate industry about 6 or 8 months into the business. So from an experience standpoint, we've kind of been on both sides of the transaction. So we've had the real estate side of it and also now on the inspection side of it. So we bring a lot of value to the transaction to help other real estate agents and really help educate the buyers through the whole process.
Yeah, so and that's critical. Us realtors, I know we really appreciate an inspector that understands the pains that a real estate agent goes through when a home has an inspection. So you, with your background and being in real estate, that's one of the things that I really enjoy because you know what it's like to be on my side of the fence. So how big is your group now?
Yeah, so right now we have a total of 9 of us now. So we've have 5 full-time inspectors, and the rest are just staff and marketing people. So yeah, we've kind of grown over the last 7 years pretty quickly, and have another inspector currently in school to get trained. So we'll have 6 full-time inspectors here shortly.
Holy cow, that's awesome. Like I said, when Mike I think started, it was just him and his co-owner or partner there, and so you guys have really done great. That's awesome. What areas of the Dallas-Fort Worth area do you cover?
So we cover just mostly Collin, Denton, Dallas counties, a little bit of Tarrant County, but kind of when we started, we said, if you're willing to drive out and show a house and sell a house down in Burleson, hey, we'll go down there and take care of it for you, just because we don't want you to have to go find a new inspector that you really don't have a lot of experience with. So we've always tried to take care of our realtors that work with us all the time. So we do go, Sherman to Denison, down to Waxahachie and Burleson. So kind of go all over. Yep,
I've been all over those places. So, one of the things I think, Mike, that also is critical as far as a realtor goes, and I don't know if a buyer, well, I guess a buyer would appreciate this, is the turnaround time that you guys can get into get an inspection scheduled. A lot of times when a crazy market's going on, sometimes it may take 4 or 5 days for an inspector to get a free spot to get a home inspected. And then when you're in the option period, and for those buyers that are watching, the option period is the period of time that a buyer has to basically do an inspection and negotiate any repairs. And if something comes up bad, they can get out of the deal without losing a whole lot of money. And you guys offer a 48-hour guarantee?
48-hour guarantee, yes, sir. So we're happy to help you guys write those short option periods, which can help you win the real estate transaction, right? So we can come out within 48 hours guaranteed. So we're able to take on 10 or 12 inspections a day, right? So when the market's really going great, we have all the guys working, and we definitely can accommodate meeting those deadlines since we started our business.
So how many inspections, Mike, are you doing a day now, just yourself?
So usually we just try to have all the inspectors just do 2 inspections a day, and that.
So you have a morning session and an afternoon.
Morning session, afternoon session, and that allows the inspector enough time not to rush through the house, grab a lunch break, and then go out to the afternoon appointment. So
right now, one of the things I've always told Mike is that I always test the real estate market. You can run a lot of numbers. You can kind of try to guess how the real estate market's doing. But one of the best gauges, in my opinion, especially from a buyer's perspective, is how busy are the inspectors. If they're super busy, then it tells me the market must be doing pretty good because people are selling and buying houses. So are you guys busy?
Absolutely. So we've had, obviously with the coronavirus, over the last 6 weeks or so, we had about a 10 to 14 day period where we actually kind of slowed down a little bit. But over the last, 10 to 12 days, we're almost back up to full speed ahead with the real estate industry. So it's been really picking up. I think a lot of people are getting a little cabin fever and getting out there and taking a look at the houses and making their moves.
So at what, 5 inspectors, 6 inspectors, 2 a day, that's 12 inspections a day, basically on average or so?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah,
and you guys
try to keep it around, 50 houses a week, and the guys can get a couple days off too. So
50 houses a week. And you guys obviously inspect on Saturdays and Sundays?
Yes, sir. Yes. So again, just your option period as a real estate agent and that side of the business never stops. So yeah, we operate 7 days a week.
That's awesome. So, you brought up one thing I'm sure a lot of people are curious about is, the coronavirus and how that is affecting. What is a lead inspection group doing, to protect yourself, obviously, but obviously also to protect the property and so forth?
Absolutely. So what we've done is kind of what we're doing here, a Zoom meeting, right? So we do a lot of our inspection reviews over Zoom now, so that we don't have to have that close interaction with the clients. But if clients do have the option to still come out to the house and meet with us in person, so we're again doing that social distancing and just kind of set up the computer and we can run it with our mouse, 6 feet away. Yeah. And they're also wearing, masks and gloves while we're in the homes inspecting, just so that we're not bringing any germs into somebody's home that they're living in, and also just to kind of protect everybody as we're interacting with the buyers in the home.
Right. Now, have you seen sellers kind of decline inspection requests, or do they understand that, hey, they want to sell their house, they got to get this done?
Yes, so far, sellers have been pretty receptive. So, we do have a lot of sellers staying home since, a lot of folks aren't going to work right now. So we do have a lot of sellers at home while we're doing the inspection. So they're kind of very accommodating to let us in their home and during this kind of, unprecedented time that we're all experiencing.
Right. Okay, Mike, well, let's kind of change gears a little bit. Let's go into kind of the services that you guys offer, because, me as a realtor, I know there's lots of different inspections that you can get as an inspector. And, a lot of buyers don't realize that. So, there's the general home inspection. What are some of the inspections that you guys offer and services that you offer out of Elite?
Absolutely. So again, like you mentioned, our general inspection, that kind of covers everything from the roof down to the foundation, a very comprehensive inspection. Some home buyers have some concerns when they're out looking at property. So we offer things like termite inspections where we're looking for those wood destroying insects. That's a very popular choice. Also foundation measurements, if sellers have, or buyers and sellers have concerns about the condition of the foundation, we can come take some measurements and really fine tune those inspections. And then just some optional services. We do infrared scanning, we do indoor air quality, swimming pools. Wow. So, different varieties of things. So we try to have a kind of the jack of all trades, if you will. We want to be the one-stop shop where people can come and, get all of their services and not have to coordinate 3 or 4 different inspectors coming out. So
now, I would assume you have a pool inspection along with that as well?
Yes, sir. So we do pool and then also septic systems. Yeah. So
wow.
Kind of different variety of things, just depending on our country properties versus our city properties. So
right, and I understand that the cost of the different services kind of varies depending on the size of the property and so forth. But what does a typical general home inspection run for with you guys?
Yeah, so I'd say, if you pick a house that's, 3,000 square feet, plus or minus a couple hundred there. So usually just a general inspection is about $375 to $395.
Wow.
For a slab foundation, just depending on the age of it. So little older homes, it can be a little bit more. Right. Little newer homes, it's a little bit less, right? So.
And then when you guys do an inspection, typically how long is the turnaround before you're giving the results to the buyer?
Yeah, so we'll, if we're coming out on Tuesday morning, you'll have that report. We'll be able to review it over the phone with you, 11:30 noontime as far as a verbal review of what's going on, and then you'll have that report later that evening at the very latest.
Yeah, one of the things that I do, and I'm trying to do, even with the corona, is I like to, me as the agent, I like to attend usually the last hour, what I typically refer to as the review period. What do you recommend for buyers? Obviously, let's take the corona thing out of it for now, because I think that's going to get cleared up here soon. What do you recommend as a buyer? How long they should be there? When should they show up and that?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So I like you said, I think the best and most valuable time for the buyer to show up at the property is going to be that last hour to 30 minutes, whatever their schedule permits. That's the best bang for your buck as far as coming after we've had a chance to inspect the home. We can then, talk to any certain points and questions that the buyer has. If they're showing up towards the beginning, right, we just kind of say, hi, we're at your house to inspect. We don't have a lot of information yet. So
Yeah. Well, plus it's then slowing you down and then, or they're sitting around with nothing to do, right?
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, it's got just kind of let us get there, let us do our thing for that 2 or 3 hours, and then definitely show up towards the end. We prefer to meet you in person, and it makes the review process really, really easy to kind of show you things while we're there.
So the 2 to 3 hours. So typical inspection, what, 3 to 4 hours long, depending on, of course, the size of the house.
Yeah, just size and condition, but with just your 3,000 square foot house on average, we're going to block out a 4 hour period of time with the homeowner that we're in the house and have that availability. So again, we don't have to rush through anything.
Yeah. So now let's go a little bit deeper into the inspection. What are, how does the inspection, what goes on during an inspection? I mean, kind of give us a brief kind of overview of what an inspection is.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as a general inspection, we're going to kind of go into the home and operate all of the appliances, the faucets and fixtures, just like you're living there, right? We're going to try to get in there, run the dishwasher, turn on the oven, operate all of those particular appliances just to make sure they're heating up properly, running complete cycles. But in addition to that, we're going to get out and take a look at your foundation to see if it's performing well. We're going to look for brick cracks, things in the attic. Is there any cracked, rafters in the attic? Also, getting up on your roof, if it's accessible and safe, right? We're going to get up and walk on the roof to inspect your roof. That's obviously a big concern here with all of our, storms every spring with hail damage and wind damage. So it's a very comprehensive view of all the components of the home. So typically, the only thing we really don't take a look at is going to be like your built-in ice makers or refrigerators. Everything else is kind of fair game to us to take a look at and just give you an overall report on it.
So then I would assume, well, I don't assume, I know, but the report I is broken up into the various sections of how you're inspecting the house. I would assume it's broken up into roof and foundation and all that.
Absolutely, yeah. So we, all inspectors in Texas are licensed through the Texas Real Estate Commission. So we do have to use the same standard form, across the state. So it is broken down in those different sections, like like you had mentioned, foundation, grading and drainage, the roof, sprinkler system, and just your different appliances as an example.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm going to share something real fast here. Let's put this up here. So this is, I guess this is, I don't know if you can see this, Mike. I assume you can.
Yes, I got you now. Yes, sir.
All right. So basically, this is one little section of a foundation, or excuse me, inspection report looks like. So kind of cover a little bit of what I'm looking at here.
Absolutely. So just this is going to be obviously almost the first page of any inspection report. Going to dive into your foundations here, and then on your top left, you have your 4 check boxes, and those check boxes correspond with those words at the top there. So each box would be inspected, not present, and deficient. So that's going to be a combination of boxes that's checked in any section of the report. And then with the foundation specifically here, we have to also give an opinion on your foundation. So the state of Texas does require the inspector to form an opinion and put it in writing, whether the foundation is functioning as it's supposed to, or do we recommend you get further evaluation because we're seeing some red flag indicators that might lead us to believe you could have some challenges with the foundation.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's kind of a misnomer out there about an inspection is an inspector is going to pass or fail a house, and that's really not the case, is it?
No, not at all. No, that is definitely a common thing that we see. That I go and I'll be at a house with a seller's home, and they go, "Do we pass or fail?" And it's like, well, there's really not a pass or fail. We're just going to give you in the report a condition of the home, and then some areas if we wanted to focus on. It's like we were concerned about how the heating or the air conditioner was performing that day. So we'll make some specific recommendations, but it's definitely not a pass or fail grade.
Right, and it looks like also, I think this is actually even one of your reports. You guys do a lot of pictures in your inspection reports?
Absolutely. So I can tell this report's done by one of our inspectors. His name's Lyle. I can just recognize his style here. But absolutely. So, obviously for those buyers that aren't present during the inspection, maybe they live out of state, maybe they're, don't want to show up right now with the coronavirus. These are going to be some things that help the buyer understand what we're trying to portray to them as far as some grading and drainage challenges, And these pictures are literally worth 1,000 words, right? That old saying. So definitely can help the buyer understand some more of our common items that we see during inspection reports. And if there's something that's really unique, we can have some pictures of that as well.
Right. And one of the things that, I like to do as a real estate agent, is I go through and I highlight the things that I'm concerned about. And in this particular case, it wasn't really a concern to me that this is a minor issue, but I highlighted just to kind of show an example of here's something that you found is deficient. I think there was some splash blocks were missing in this particular house, and so you highlighted that as not a failure, but a deficiency that probably should be taken care of because poor drainage can lead to big problems. But so I highlighted that. So that's one of the things. But as as we scroll through this, you're going to see how the report's broken down into roof. Then it's going to go and talk about details of some of the roof items, walls, and it's going to go on and break and see all the different beautiful pictures, which is critical. So for example, here was one, showed a crack, some siding issues, and some holes in the walls and stuff that were, very concerning to the buyer that you highlighted, or your inspector there highlighted. So, that was pretty good. So, let's see, let's stop the share. Okay. So as you're going through and doing an inspection, what are some of the top items that you typically will see? And then what are some of the top items that you as an inspector, if you were buying a home, that would concern you the most?
Absolutely. So we'll kind of address your first question there. So the most common things that we're going to see at most homes are going to be like that example you have, those splash blocks for the grading and drainage, right? They're either missing, turned backwards. That's a real common item. And in that example you showed us, that's actually a stock photo in our reports because it is so common. So that would be a common item. Window caulking is going to be a very common item. Typically, most sprinkler systems will have one or two heads that are either broken or damaged from the lawnmower. So those are going to be some real common things that we're going to see on each and every report we go to, even brand new homes, right? Because they're built by people, and people don't do the best work all the time. So
cut the corners.
That's right. So, but some things I always like to address with all of our home buyers or sellers is there's 5 major systems of any house, right? It's going to be our roof, our foundation, heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical, right? So those are going to be our 5 big ticket items, and those would be the areas I would focus on as a home buyer going into any new home purchase. Of how are these 5 big systems performing at the time of inspection, their overall condition. So those would be the big areas to focus on for all of us that are buying a house, right? So
right. Okay. Now, it's a lot of times, what can a seller do? Now, this is kind of a different angle. The seller's got a deal happening and they got an inspection coming up. What are some of the things that a seller should be aware of and be prepared for to make the inspection a successful, thing?
Absolutely. So this is a kind of a loaded question for us as an inspector, Dan, but I appreciate you bringing it up. No, so each and every week we run into several challenges over and over every week. So number one, if the house is vacant, we show up to the house and all the utilities aren't turned on, right? So we need the water, got to have the electricity, and we got to have the gas. So sometimes we get 1 or 2 out of 3, but not all 3 all the time. So that would be a big item just as a realtor, just making sure that your homeowner knows that you got to have all the utilities on while the home's under contract.
Yeah, and that really falls to the agent to make sure that when you guys are touring the house, if those utilities are turned off, they've got to make arrangements with the other agent, the seller's agent, to make sure those get turned on. I've been involved in many deals where we go out there and you're right, 2 out of the 3,
right,
the gas company didn't show up. Well, guess what? We got gas heat, we got gas water heater, we got gas appliances. None of that's getting inspected.
Can't do a whole lot with it, right?
No. So yeah, that's a good point.
So that's number one. That's a big one. And then I guess some common things that we see all the time when the seller's still living at the home is, as an inspector, we need access to a lot of areas that get blocked in the garage, right? So everybody's getting their home ready for sale, so they start storing some of the extra things inside the home that you guys as realtors recommended. Hey, let's kind of maybe take this out of here and open up the room a little bit. So, but in the garage, we do need access to the pull down attic stairs, right? So we need to be able to pull that down and get up into the attic, and also access over to the electrical panel and the sprinkler system. So a lot of these items, do get blocked with boxes and armoires and those big items that inspectors aren't going to move a lot of stuff. We don't mind moving a few little things, but we're not going to move, 6, 8, 10, 12 boxes. Because
Right. Well, the liability there.
Yeah, we don't want to damage something that's very valuable to the homeowner.
Right. Well, that's good advice. So the sellers out there are things, and so a lot of things also. I tell if I'm getting ready to put a house on the market, I'll walk it from. I try to do it in inspector's eye, thanks to some of your training. And if I can get them to fix some of the items, I say, hey, we can, eliminate that as being a potential issue. So I try to get the sellers to do that too. Now, as a buyer, what are some of the expectations as a buyer going into an inspection? I mean, obviously, buyers don't go to inspections, but maybe once or twice their entire lives,
right.
Where, you and I are at them a lot. So we know what's going to happen. What are some of the expectations you should set as a buyer?
Yeah, I would initially say, hey, don't be overwhelmed, right? So you're going to get a lot of information on your inspection report, and it's unfortunately all kind of bad or negative news about the home they're in love with, right? So we don't want it to be overwhelming for them where they're going, man, this is like the worst house on the block. So a lot of items, like we talked about earlier, are going to be some common items that are going to be found at the house 3 doors down, right? Everybody needs caulking on their windows and those types of things. So again, as a buyer, if you focus on those 5 big systems, that's a great starting point to kind of break down the condition of the house. And let's say, 4 of those 5 systems are good. Maybe you can, maybe pick on the sprinkler system that has a couple broken heads and kind of work through that in your negotiations.
Right.
And then also, just as buyers, there's some things that we don't inspect, right? So some of those expectations, we try to, meet those, but some things we're just not able to inspect because it's a little bit out of the scope of what an inspector does.
Right.
And some of those things might be a retaining wall in the backyard that kind of affects the neighbor's backyard. So we're kind of there to inspect the house, not really the neighborhood landscape and the retaining walls for that. So some of those things are a little bit out of the scope, and maybe some buyers don't always realize that.
Now, do you guys do evaluation of fencing and stuff like that?
So with fencing, the only time we inspect the fence is going to be if you have a swimming pool at the property. And this is outside of whether you pay for a pool inspection or not. This is just standard. If you have a pool, we have to inspect the fence for the safety related items.
Okay.
So we want to make sure it's in good condition to keep the neighbor's kids from accidentally getting into your pool area.
Yeah. Wouldn't want the neighbor kids doing that.
Not at
One
all.
of the things that, that we run into a lot is, the way the inspection is done is you guys have to inspect the house as if it was bought or built today. And of course, building codes change over time. I know in the house that I'm in, I don't know if it would even get through. It would probably be a 500-page inspection report based on the age of my particular property. But so, how does that affect, kind of to walk us through that situation?
Absolutely. So, we're going to we inspect homes. Literally, I've done them from 1900 to brand new, right? So we got a big range of conditions of home construction of those times. So a lot of items that we have to point out. Let's say your house was built in 1970, and houses I grew up in, right, was built then. So I can remember as a kid, you have a staircase, right, and you're going up the stairs, and guess what? All the kids are going to do? We're going to stick our head between those spindles on the staircase, right? So over time, just due to enough accidents and injuries to kind of the building, regulations, I said, hey, let's kind of tighten up the spacing between these because it can be a safety hazard. So those are going to be some things that pop up in your inspection report that we have to say are deficient because it's related to safety. So the good news is the current owner doesn't have to bring the house up to a current code. And then also the good news is we kind of educate the buyer just of some safety concerns. If they do have little children, around the house, just say, hey, let's not stick your head in there. See,
and I think you touched on something very critical is that, the seller, when the house was built, a buyer has to realize that, if they wanted these code changes or these things that are made to code today and the house is built 30 years ago, it may be something that, it's just not going to happen. You can't expect the seller to bring a house completely up to code. Even though a buyer may want them to, it's not realistic from a seller's perspective. Yeah, I guess if you want that as a buyer, you should probably go buy a new house. And even a new house, right? So the codes can, cities can run 3 or 4 years behind the current code that we're inspecting to. So even if you're buying a brand new house in certain cities, you're still going to have some things that pop up on the report that we say, hey, we're looking for this as a state licensed inspector, but the local city hasn't adopted this particular code yet. So that's a good point. It's hard to keep up. So. All right. Well, I got a little note here that said my time is getting about run out. So,
Okay.
Mike, I'm going to let you kind of close this off. Tell us again who you are, what you do, kind of give yourself a little plug here, and maybe we can get you some business.
Oh, that sounds great. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah. So Mike Kemper with Elite Inspection Group, website eigdallas.com. We have a great background as far as the real estate sales background, and now being in the inspection industry, 7+ years now, literally doing 2,000 something homes a year. So we've probably seen everything that's out there to see at this time. So give us a shot. If you're buying a brand new house, get a brand new house inspected. If you're buying an old house, definitely get those inspected. So
Yeah, that is something we didn't touch on is, should buyers get a brand new home inspected? And I always tell them absolutely.
absolutely, yes. There's definitely on our website, there's a sample reports page, and we try to keep that updated, every 3 or 4 months with just new homes, old homes, just different things that we see out there. And every new home is not perfect, so there's always something that can be improved.
Right. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know you're probably off to your next inspection, and I appreciate you carving out. You're probably eating your lunch in your car here, and I really appreciate that. But again, Mike Kemper, Elite Inspection Group, best inspectors I know. Give them a try. If you're a buyer looking to buy a house, Dan Sexton, Mr. Excitement. We get excited about real estate. So, look forward to talking to you guys soon. Mike, I hope to see you real soon, as a matter of fact.
Real soon, absolutely.
Real soon. I love seeing Mike. That means I got a deal going.
Got another deal going. Yeah, again, thanks for the opportunity, Dan, and I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take care now.
Bye-bye.